All right, hello everyone, and welcome to a discussion of Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. And you both have the beautiful edition. I have the ordinary paperback.
That is a beautiful John Picasso cover.
Yep.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Is that's the broken binding edition? Is that
No,
or
that's your edition. Your edition is a
oh,
John
mine is
Picasso.
mine's
Yeah.
cool. I like it.
I don't know, John, if you've done this though. I may have to display
Yeah.
this on the shelf like this.
It's
That's
I think it
gorgeous. Yeah,
I
it's
think
so
it
pretty,
fits
right?
really well. I
Yeah.
like, yeah,
shiny.
great
Yeah.
Hmm.
addition.
So anyway, we are talking about Black Sun, the first book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. Did I get that right? I think I did.
Yep.
And by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is, I believe, an award-winning fantasy novel, and it's our first time reading. Certainly mine, I believe, for both of you as well. Reading anything by Rebecca Roanhorse, and I'm excited to talk about this. So we're going to start spoiler free. And we are going to then go into spoilers. We'll warn you when we do that. But we're going to give our spoiler-free assessments. Let me introduce my guests, though. First, there is John from Talking Story. Hello, John. How are you?
Great, great. Love to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Always glad to chat with you, my friend. And there is Josh from Red Fury Books. Hello, Josh. How's it going?
It's going great, Philip. Always a pleasure to talk with you and to talk with John, and this should be a fun chat.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a good time. So, and we'll be doing the books two and three in the future, probably about a month from now. Book two and then book three. Although John, I know you snuck ahead of us and read.
I I think I liked it maybe more than some others here. I was excited to get to book two.
Uh,
So I
okay, we'll see. Well, we're gonna do a spoiler-free assessment right now. So tell
Yep.
us, how much did you like it, John?
Yeah, it's okay. It's one of those, it's hard to describe for me because it lives in both worlds. I love the beginning. I thought the beginning was quite brutal, sucked me right in, and I'm sure we'll talk about how that happened when we get to our spoiler section. Um, I love the beginning. I love the world building. I love the Mesoamerican feel to it. Very different, like a breath of fresh air world building for me in a fantasy series.
Hmm.
I love the mythology that they're springboarding off of. It would all of it. I just found very interesting, and I wasn't entirely sucked in on the story. I would say for about the first third, about the first 30%. I'm not saying I wasn't enjoying it,
Hmm.
but it wasn't just captivating me. And then from about 30% on into half of the book, I started hearing whisperings. When I'd been away from the book for too long, I'd be like, I wonder what's going on. I should get back to that. And I started to have a bit of a pull. And I started to realize it's like, you know what? Maybe I'm more sucked in than I think I'm sucked in. And from the 50% on to 100 to the last half, and into the ending, which I thought did a great job of just completely upending the status quo, completely taking each of our main POV characters to a different point from where they started, as well as the world that they're inhabiting. I was very much involved. I was kind of all in. And I felt like, could this be one of my favorite trilogies? Could this make the list? I'm not saying it's that rarefied air yet, but it's working on me more than I thought it was. It insinuated itself into my thoughts more than I even, I think, recognized because I felt I was lukewarm on it. And then I couldn't put it down from about 33% on. So I really enjoyed it. I've read book two. And as far as rarefied air goes, it all hinges on the end. It's either going to be like this huge bang of an ending or it's going to be that was nice. So I gotta wait and see.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Josh, how about you? I think you had a slightly different experience and
Yeah,
some positives, and maybe you have some issues as well. Is that right?
I hope I'm not the negative Nick on the video today. But so I had some definite positives and I had some definite things that didn't really work for me. Let me start with the positives first. And John, you alluded to it already. The world building, I think, is S tier.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with that aspect of it. I loved it. I love the novelty of it. I've
Hmm.
never read anything in a setting like this. I don't know much about, pre-Columbian Americas or whatever the initial setting is, so I don't really know much about it. But I thought it was just so interesting. It reminded me the first time that I encountered a an Asian setting for a fantasy story. I just remember thinking, "Oh, this is so cool."
Mm-hmm.
And one thing she does really well that I really appreciate is I'm not a very good visual reader. Like I don't picture things very well. But with the setting and the world building, I was able to picture a lot of things. I was able to picture the people and the tattoos and the clothing that they were wearing. And I was able to picture the city of Tova very, very clearly. So there's obviously some really great skill from the author that I loved on that aspect of it. My biggest issue with the book is I felt that the plot moved far too fast, and it
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was in a hurry. And I mentioned in my just short reviews of my monthly wrap up that I wanted about 200 more pages. And it wasn't because I loved the story and wanted 200 more pages, but I felt that she didn't develop things as completely as she could have. For instance, there's some characters that get together in this story that I felt their relationship was totally unearned because I didn't feel that the groundwork was laid there because it was just kind of in a hurry
Mm-hmm.
to get to the next scene. And that really detracted from my enjoyment. And then the ending, which had so many great moments, I felt
Yeah.
was super rushed. And some of these moments still stick with me, like visually, just thinking of kind of that last couple scenes there. Like again, she's giving me images in my brain that a lot of authors lack the skill to be able to do that. But I felt because the plot was just so fast moving that I just didn't feel like a deep connection to it. And like when a thing happened to one of the characters that I thought I really liked, I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and because I didn't feel that deep connection. And I feel that if we would have got a higher page count in general and a slower pace, maybe a lot of these things might have paid off a little bit better for me.
Yeah. Okay. It is, I think, just a little over 100,000 words. It's not a long book.
It's yeah, it is quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, there are pros and cons to that. You write a 200,000, 300,000 word book and you've got space to develop that slow burn, have the relationships simmer for a long time and really pull your reader into those. And whereas I think more publishers are emphasizing the quicker pace for better or worse these days.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of modern fantasy it does that exactly what you were describing, Josh. It's as a okay, slightly older fantasy reader. I love the older style of just take your time. Let me, bask in the Shire for 100 pages before anything happens, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I realized that the industry has changed. There are different expectations, and I think that may be a factor. I have no idea. Obviously, I
Mhm.
don't know Rebecca Roanhorse or anything, but I have to wonder if that if she wrote what she wrote, I guess is what I'm saying, and and it does have its positives. Like it's a fast-paced book. A lot of people prefer that fast-paced book. It just does read very fast. I actually listened to the audiobook myself. By the way, just shout out to the performers. It was several performers there. I think four different narrators, and they were all fantastic. I think I'm more like John in terms of my experience of the book. I just kind of gradually realized I actually feel kind of attached to this story and these characters. And I actually had a moment at the end, which I'll talk about when we do the spoilers, where I was kind of in tears at a certain moment, probably having to do with that relationship that you didn't quite buy into. I
Mhm.
found it, wow, holy cow, this actually worked for me here.
Yeah.
So there was something really just I felt tragic and beautiful about the tug of war between the individual and of course modern people we think of ourselves as individual first, but in older cultures it's the culture first, it's the people first, it's
Mhm.
and the sacrifices that you make for the people, you erase your individuality in some ways. That was I felt a theme going on in here, in a context where you have an oppressed group of people, where the call to keep that culture alive and maybe even get some retribution for things that happened in the past
Hmm.
involves a great deal of sacrifice on the part of individuals. I thought that theme was handled brilliantly, actually, because what happens to oppressed cultures? What does that do to the people within that culture? How does it change them? How does it shape them? What choices are they forced to make in that kind of a context? So really appreciated that aspect of the story. So I'm excited to read the next two books. In short, I actually I expected to enjoy this, and I think I loved it even more than I thought I would
Mm.
overall. So yeah,
See,
that's my
you may
yep.
I might be in between you two. I might be
Yeah.
because I'm not. I wouldn't use love like if I may love it. It all depends on the end for me. But listening to Josh, I will say I'm depending on the book, depending on the story, right? You find yourself being a different audience member, a different type of audience member,
Yeah.
and I felt this audience. I felt as an audience member, I was between earth and sky. I had a 30,000-foot view and I was watching the story and watching it all unfold. I didn't quite feel like I was in the shoes or in behind the eyes of these characters. But I still found some things affecting me. So I felt like I was in a different level of the audience because of the pace and the speed and the things. But by the end, I kind of was affected. So I kind of see both points. I think I'm right here in the middle seat.
No, I think that's a fair point about you can't do in 100,000 or 110,000 words, whatever this is, what you could do in like a Robin Hobb book
Right.
or a
Mhm.
Malazan book with 200, 300,000 words. You just can't. And I don't think many publishers are willing to take a chance on a 300,000 word book these days. So
It's a big ask.
Was this her debut?
that I don't know.
I do know the trilogy, like the third book, just because I have them on the shelf. The third book
Yeah.
is very big, looks
Yeah.
to be about twice as big as the other two. So I just wonder if maybe because at that point she had been nominated for all the awards and everything, that she could actually expand and write more. I'm just conjecturing because I do know that,
It's definitely
obviously,
thicker. The print is huge in here though. So
Hmm.
mhm,
I feel like it looks bigger than it is.
mhm.
I I I will say from having read book two, I there needs to be a few more pages because there's a lot to wrap up. There's quite a bit to wrap up.
hmm Okay. All right. Any other spoiler-free thoughts, guys, before we dive into this book? Spoiler. Okay.
I do want to bring up that I had messaged John because I read it first and it took me out of the story. I had never experienced the non-binary pronouns
Uh-huh.
before.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so I was like confused as can be until I Googled and then I realized what it was. So then I messaged John. So I think it's just something to point out for people that maybe have not experienced that in literature before. It's like I've heard them, like I've heard them people mention those pronouns before, but I'd never seen them. I don't know how they're the G and the Jur,
Hmm.
with the XE, XIR. I've never seen it in prints. And at first I wasn't sure what was going on. So I think just something to point out for people that read it, maybe that haven't read it before, to just be kind of forewarned.
Yeah.
Because it did briefly take me out of the story as I had to grab my phone and Google and say, what is this?
Yeah. And and,
And
and
by the
I
way, just from a linguistic perspective, there are native cultures that have up to like
yes.
six different genders. Uh,
Yeah, and that's what I read about that when I
yeah,
was when I was
yeah,
just figuring out what was going on with that. And I did find
yeah.
that interesting because it did seem more it wasn't her putting a modern lens on
No,
Right.
fantasy. It was taking something that was part of potential that culture, which I found that fascinating. But it did take me out of the story just because I was just confused.
Yeah. And I went in forewarned thanks to Josh. So
cool, cool. Yeah, that's worth pointing out. And yeah, you may need to. That's a heads up, I guess. But that being said, let's dive into spoilers, guys. Spoilers are coming, everyone. If you haven't read
okay.
Black Sun, this is your chance to uh, uh, to parachute away. But here we go. So, guys, we have essentially. I thought we could do this with the four main POV characters that we have in here, and they are Serapio and Ciala and Naranpa and Okoa. Now, these will give us an opportunity to talk about most aspects of the story. We may bring in some characters as well. Obviously, other characters like Iktan or whatever, they're going to be worth mentioning too. But those are
Hmm.
the four main POVs. And maybe we should start with Serapio since that's where the
Yeah.
book starts with that prologue. That is,
Whew.
hey, thank you for telling me this is going to be a brutal story.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys, let me get your thoughts on the prologue first. What are you thinking, guys?
I think what you said about the collective versus the individual, I mean, obviously that's Serapio right there. I mean,
Hmm.
his mother's willing to blind him for the greater good of the Carrion Crow clan and all of that. And he's he lives through that, but then when you see him in kind of the modern um, storyline, he's 100% at peace with all of it, realizing that, Giala isn't at peace with it, but he's totally at peace with it. And I think it's exactly what you said. He's just totally bought into this collective of his clan, and this is what he has to do for his clan. But yeah, what an introduction. I mean, right away I was kind of floored and it was a bit gruesome to begin with. I was wondering if this was going to be kind of a grim, dark story, and I wouldn't say it is, but that first introduction of Serapio kind of was.
Yeah.
John?
I don't know. My needle would tend to go over a little harder into grimdark, I think. From the very beginning, I really love the prologue. Like I'm a big horror fan from way back. So the prologue was like, "Oh, you're speaking my language." I love and it's so interesting to have this lens right away of, like you were saying, these oppressed people and this weird dichotomy of a mother's love and the religious fervor to try and get her populace back on top after this night of knives. I mean, you don't know all the history yet, but
Right.
just to see her take her son in hand and create a vessel for a living god, or a living vessel for a god, a deity, to be like a nuclear secret weapon. And that she does not hold any punches back, and then to throw herself out the window at the end of that. It was like, it was brutality upon brutality, and it just flung me right into the story and told me right away, there we're not going to hold any punches. This is going to be where, wherever the story needs to go, we're going to go there. And I'm not going to say there was no light, but by the end of the book, there was very little light. So I will say, I kind of edge. I would kind of say it's pretty grimmy, pretty darky.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah.
I read the Gap cycle this year, so nothing's grimdark after reading that thing.
Okay. You know, I think Saya, that's the mother's name.
Hmm.
She, as much as Serapio is dedicated to the cause, no one is more dedicated than Saya. What
Is
she's
he
given up,
dedicated?
she's
Is he
given up,
dedicated?
she's given up her child.
Yeah.
She's given up her child. She's given up her own life. She's the sacrifice herself that seals the deal. She doesn't just jump off for the heck of it or because she feels bad. She was the sacrifice that seals the deal, that makes him the avatar or the
Hmm.
vessel, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, just her level, and then we get these epigraphs throughout of her as a 13-year-old girl making observations, and you can see that future, that strong woman, that dedicated woman in those epigraphs. I thought that was a really cool touch, actually, to get her. Not all the epigraphs were Saya, but a lot of them were her making observations, and we can see her character forming under the burden of what has been done to her people, the ongoing oppression and the Night of Knives and everything else, and that's where that stems from, and then that's where there's atrocity and pain and suffering, it tends to produce more of this.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah, go ahead,
it,
John.
it produced more. And I don't know if Serapia is entirely down with the cause, or
Uh-huh.
we just get to see him indoctrinated to this level of a very young boy all the way through the training, because we had those, what it was spread out through the book, but we had these moments of training for him, uh whether it's wood carving to combat to, big locked in a chest. I mean, whatever it was going to take to entirely indoctrinate him and to realize that I'm on a path that is I will have to martyr myself and I will have to do this for my people. And I feel like you saw little glimmers through his training, and then especially when he, met the Lady of the Sea that we'll get to a little bit
Ciala.
late.
Yeah.
Scala, he started to have doubts. He started to have questions. He started to feel pulls in different directions. So, I mean, not that he wavered and didn't go through with everything, but I kind of have questions of if he's as was down with the cause as much as his mother was, or if he was just entirely from a very young age, just completely indoctrinated.
And he's never been among the Crow clan in his
Yeah.
life. This is all coming from his mother, and the
Yeah.
three tutors who are. I mean, the part where it's revealed that he killed the first two when he's having the
Yeah.
conversation with the
That was a
third,
shock.
and the third's like, yeah, are you gonna kill me too?" Oh man,
But
so
no, you're right. You're right, John. With him, it seems like, especially in kind of the, I guess you could consider the modern timeline, the non-flashbacks, that he almost
Right.
just seems resigned. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is where it's not necessarily his will, but it's what he's going to do, because that's what he's prepared for. So he's just
Yeah.
kind of resigned for it. And I thought it was very interesting because I think we've seen a corollary to that in fantasy a lot with maybe a princess that has to marry for, political reasons, is kind of that
Interesting.
kind of archetype. And now we get
Mm-hmm.
kind of a very different take on that. But yeah, he was a very interesting character. But again, I wanted a little bit more of him, especially. I think we could have delved into, more of the time with his tutors, because those scenes for me were just incredibly intriguing, and I
Yeah.
would have loved, quite a bit more of it.
I did love the training and how he did take out the first two, like just how dangerous this being is, you know?
yeah, yeah, and it's understandable that, of course, he would have some trepidation about giving up his life. Again, he doesn't know the Crow people. This is all done essentially because the one person in his life who genuinely loved him, his mother,
Mm-hmm.
wanted him to be this, and he's trying
Yeah.
to fulfill this role for his mother, knowing what she gave up for it to
Yeah.
happen.
So
It's
tragic.
really all about his relationship with his mother, who is a not present in most of the stories. She's there in the prologue, and then we get those little epigraphs here and there, but she has a powerful presence in the story. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one relationship where he knows he loved her, that she loved him. He knows that she loved him tremendously, and still was willing to do that to him and make him this vessel. So
That was part of the I just love that texture of that prologue though, because she was doing these things to him and they were quite graphically described out of love. Like that was not lost in the description.
no, no, yeah. Phew. Well, I thought my mom was tough. A few spankings, I guess, it's
Yeah, you came out lucky.
yeah, no uh, carvings in my back or anywhere or my chest or anything like that. Yeah. I did need glasses, but nothing about my eyes being sewn shut or anything. So yeah. Okay, well, obviously Serapio goes on a journey, a literal and figurative journey, I suppose, as he's making his way to Tova. But he doesn't do it alone, does he? He has a companion on this trip, and that is Ciala, who is probably my favorite character in the book.
Same.
How do you
Yeah.
guys feel about Ciala? Josh, you want to start us off on Ciala?
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So I loved our introduction to her. How she's just in prison and she's trying to figure out what happened, and you just realize, she's this roguish sailor. And so I liked her immediately from the start. And that's why I had such a struggle with her relationship with Serapios. I didn't feel it was earned. I didn't think that there was enough on page for me to buy into it, because she was this very independent rogue type figure, and then all of a sudden she's kind of pining after, Serapio. So I struggled with that aspect of it, and I also wonder what's in store for her going forward, because her story just kind of fizzled. She didn't get an ending like some of these other characters. So, John's nodding knowingly, so I'm sure we'll get something from
Oh
her.
yeah.
But from the first chapter, like I loved that character, and I thought she was so interesting with her ability to, affect the sea, and as the captain, and her way of using magic, and I like the character a lot, but I felt that relationship because it wasn't quite developed, and I think in many ways it kind of lessened her depth because she kind of became a one note character in a way when those two got together. Um, but I don't know, changed my mind on that. But
Yeah.
that's how I felt with her because maybe because I enjoyed her so much at the beginning, I was just disappointed that um, we didn't get quite as much from her in the last act of the story.
Yeah. John, you want to try to change Josh's mind, or do you want to agree
I,
with
I,
him? Or-
I will do my best. The reason I thought, and I'm the same. I loved the roguish sailor, a little bit of a Han Solo type of vibe, right? Like right away when she's introduced, and then for me, a big epiphany moment was when she transformed actually into a mermaid type creature.
It's Teak.
And yeah.
Teak,
And
yeah.
the teak people. And then it's like, okay, I thought these people were seamen and they could control the oceans and the currents and the wind and things like that. But no, this goes deeper. She's touched in a far deeper way. And then I could start to see, okay, these people that are elevated, these people that are vessels for magic to return, that was obviously in deity form before, and now this broken world has lost that ability. No wonder she is somewhat drawn to him, because she is one of these elevated people herself. She goes above and beyond what the rest of her people can do when she transforms. So that for me kind of gave a little bit of a weight of why they would be drawn together. Obviously the deities of this world have been, as the sun priests have gotten ascension, they're far more of a scientific analytical type of branch. They know that they can chart the moon and the stars of what's going on, and it's much less magic and far more of a scientific bent. So now that we are going to try and have a coup back the other way, and magic is starting to rear its head again from these a pantheon or something that has gone missing in some way, shape, or form. I found her being elevated as well between earth and sky in some way, and an old god favoring her in some way. It would make sense to me that they were tied together. Have these two beings been tied together in the past? Is what's happened in the past coming around again? In myth being played out over and over again as these gods rise and fall. It gave me questions like that, so I kind of bought into it.
Okay. Lovely. I'll tell you the scene that made me cry. It was the bathhouse scene with
Yep. Mhm.
Ciela and Serapio, and just the pathos of her, of course, wanting him to live because they had formed a connection, a friendship. And there was a romantic element to it, obviously, but of course, he wasn't going to allow that to happen because he knew what his fate was going to be. But there's just something about that her desperation for him, for his individuality, for his humanity, that she wants his story to continue, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think unselfishly too. I think it's not just a matter of, oh, I'm hot for you, so I don't want you to die. It's more, I think they made a really deep connection where she wants him to live because she respects his individuality, his humanity, and sees that, feels connected to that. And because, as you were saying, John, they have some things in common. I don't know how special she is in relation to the rest of her people. The Teak, is she the only one who can turn into a mermaid? I don't know. But there's something unique about her, I think, and her banishment is another part of her story. Like again, with her, I think there's a tension between being what your society expects you to be, what your culture needs you to be, wants you to be, and wanting to be your own person and have the
Hmm.
freedom to decide your own future. Like
Hmm.
Serapio has zero volition of his own in his life. He's just got to be this vessel,
Hmm.
literally. no agency because the God is going to take him over, right? And I think she feels that. She feels that because of her own background. So that came through really
Yeah.
beautifully for me. And that scene was just so sensual and just so human, I felt.
Yeah. I
Anyway.
do like that she is, even though she's touched in this way and uh, an elevated character as well in the magic system of this world, she never loses her individuality. She clings to it desperately.
Yeah.
And another theme and undercurrent going through this entire book is, like you say, expectations of your people, be it family or society more at large, and that's also played out sexually expectation wise here several times, not only with the
Hmm.
pronouns, but just things, other things, partners and connections and things like that. And I thought that was, she's never let go of her own individuality and who she is. She's a strong believer of who she is and very comfortable in her own skin. So I love that scene as well when she's trying to impart a bit of that to someone that she's found herself connected to in a very short amount of time, that there's more than what you feel like you have to do. There's more to the world than that.
That scene surprised me in that he resisted.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that shows that he's a pretty strong character, but I was not I was expecting it to unfold that they would have this night together before,
Yeah.
before the end. So that didn't unfold as I expected. So I
I
like
like
that.
that decision on Rebecca
Same.
Roanhorse's part. Yeah.
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 He gave in a bit, but not and
Right.
you know, he didn't cave. He stayed true to what he's been completely raised every moment of his life to feel he has to do. So
Yeah.
it is
But
quite imprinted on
he
him.
was paying close attention to her individuality. He
Yes.
knew that she loved bathing and that she
Mm-hmm.
wanted to bathe somewhere warm, right? And he had
Mm-hmm.
arranged that whole thing just for her. It was all about recognizing her individuality, and it was almost like a love letter to her, a goodbye, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so I thought it was just so beautiful because of that, because he, obviously in a better world in another life, they would have been a happy couple, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one got me. It really got me. But we have other characters to talk about. Are we done with for now? We can circle back anytime, but we can move on to Narampa otherwise.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think we got to circle back to Serapio for the end, but
Yes,
because
for
that was,
Yeah.
sure. For sure. We definitely need to go
yeah.
to that ending. Um, but let's talk about Narampa because she's relevant to the ending too.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on her? John, why don't you take us ahead with Narampa first?
Hey, this is so interesting to me because I was not expecting this bit of intrigue, court intrigue in a way, and
Yeah.
a bit of mystery. Um, who killed the matriarch of the Carrion Crow clan, and how does that involve the Sun Priests? And she's ascended to the High Sun Priest probably far too early. And you can see she has a bit of a rebellious streak herself. She wants to make change.
Yeah.
She's not happy with the status quo of how these oppressed people operate within her society. She wants to make changes as well, which makes her unpopular with the other priests. And I think that's where some of the intrigue comes from. Again, an undercurrent here of uh, what her family or society would think of as far as sexual mores or partnerships and things like that is played out. I really liked her character. I really liked her character by the end being pulled into a bit of a magic situation, even though she's very much a believer of her arm of society here. She's very much it's almost like great houses, right? You have the water striders and the sun priest and the carrying crows and her house, her great house, which is in Ascension running everything. She's very much a believer. She is a believer of this analytical chart the skies, know what's best for the crops. Let's have some social justice out here. Let's make some changes for the good. And then by the end, you find a very different character that's willing to extend herself and believe in some of the old beliefs and the old magic because she's been laid so low. I really appreciated her arc. I really did. It wasn't as fun as like the Han Solo take of the sailor, but I mean, I really really liked it. Really liked it.
I think in many ways, as I was just thinking of the characters, before the chat here, like if you were to make a list of things that happen, like she's not on the page as much as I think the last two we've talked about, but I think more things have happened to her,
Yeah.
per page than anybody else. Um, and I think you're right. The age thing was one part of it, but I think the other thing is the class thing. You can tell that
Mm-hmm.
she was never totally accepted because of her
Mm-hmm.
roots.
Mm-hmm.
And then of
Mm-hmm.
course she goes to her brother at the end, and they
Yes.
have I think something will probably come out of that. But like so much happened with her. And you're right. I didn't expect there to be like a political fantasy bent in here or a mystery or whatever. And she provided that, but I really liked her voice. I
Yeah.
thought that she had a really unique voice for this story, and so much happened to her. And I'm definitely intrigued to see, what happens going forward with her, because I mean she's the true Sun Priest, but
And she's
who
still
knows?
out there.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen with that in book two? I mean, John knows, but Philip and I don't know yet. So.
John knows. Yeah, that's a great call, Josh. I really like what you said there
Yeah.
about class because that's a
Mm-hmm.
big theme in here as well. And that is, I agree. For what John was saying was spot on, and about her wanting to be an innovator, wanting to be a reformer, having the courage to try to implement her vision. But at the same time, that resistance comes from not only we don't want change, but also, well, actually, you're a dry earther, so really we don't want you at all. And that is something she's running straight into with the plotting against her. And I don't think Aba, the other priestess, is really even the brains behind it. I think it's the Golden Eagle people in general.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones trying to get up on everyone else, and they're willing to use the Crow clan, the Carrion Crow clan, as a kind of a what's the word I'm looking for here?
The fall guy.
The fall
Yeah.
guy. Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think that she's a great character, Narampa. I liked her. I was rooting for her. At the same time, I
Yeah.
was frustrated with her because, gosh, you're awfully naive sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish she had been a little more like, and that's great. And when I'm kind of yelling at a character in a book, I know I'm in the story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted her to just be like, wait, you're being naive here. And,
Yeah.
Iktan is trying to tell you, don't do this. And at the same time, she's way too trusting of Aba and the
Yeah.
others. Like when they're pulling the rug from under you, and you're just like, yeah, I just walked away. Like, wait, what are you doing? They're plotting against you. They're undermining your authority, and you're just kind of playing you're taking the high road, I guess, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does
Uh,
it ever say how old she is?
I don't think
yes.
it does it. Okay.
It does. You can calculate it, I think, roughly from how old she was when she left to how long she had been at the Sun Priest and all of that. I think I had figured out at one point that she was in her late 20s, I want to say.
I was gonna
Okay.
say she can't be over third, like early
She felt
30s.
younger.
30,
Yeah, she felt
30-ish.
younger, but yeah.
Yeah, 30-ish. Older than Aba, who's, kind of a catty. There's nothing worse than the ones who just smile and act all pleasant and then they're
Yeah.
actually really evil. But
I
and
really did like her relationship with Itka though. Like I thought
Iktan,
that
Yeah.
yeah,
Iktan, yeah.
Icton. Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool
that was a
relationship.
great part of her arc. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And poor Iktan, of course, doesn't quite make it. There's a line through Iktan's name in book two, right, John?
No comment.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, yeah, the of course her opening is also. I thought that was really cool. How
Yes.
we get her at the end of the story, essentially, when the Zataya, the witch that her brother Denaochi has sent for her. I like that relationship a lot too between Denaochi. It's not a lot of page count, but I thought it was
Yeah.
really well done between
Hmm.
Denaochi and Narampa.
You just
Anyway,
touched upon something I just want to comment real
go
quick because
ahead.
I did really like, even though again I wanted everything longer, I liked the way it was plotted, like
Yeah.
the story, the way it seemed like she was very good at knowing when to do a flashback or when to do
Hmm.
to move to this character and to that character. That aspect of the plotting I really enjoyed, and I did like that how it was a bit nonlinear at times because I think it raised the kind of the suspenseful stakes to the story,
Hmm.
especially as we got towards the end with the kind of the countdown of the
Yeah.
the countdown to the ground zero of what we'll
Of
talk
what's
about in a
happening.
minute.
I liked Iran being introduced in a flashback as a young girl in that it's like the in the caves down in the cliff, the part of society that I think it's the wolf area or something in if I remember correctly. But
The
yeah,
mall.
you see that class delineation pretty stark right away when she's introduced as a character as a young girl.
Yep, yep, yep. And yeah, I mean, just to reiterate the non-linear, the non-chronological way in which the story is told, very effective, I thought. And building that tension and realizing, okay, Narampa's in big trouble here. You knew
Yes.
something was going to happen to her, but as it turns out, the plot against her may have saved her life
Yes, actually.
Exactly.
because she's
When
not
Sarah,
there when
yeah, when
Serapio transforms into the
Yeah.
crowd. Yeah. So.
She is not the high priest at the 0 hour.
The dude who tried to usurp her is like, and Serapio slash the Crow God is like, you're not the Sun Priest.
Yeah. Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder these gods that have faded as they move their pieces, how much of a move was that to keep the actual high priestess of the sun safe?
I also like how complex it is in terms of where your sympathies might lie, because in many ways, as modern people, we might be more inclined, actually, we're more similar in some ways to the Watchers, the sun. They're more
Mm.
like scientists, in some
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
They think of themselves as being more like scientists, at least now. They're kind of in denial about the magic part of their existence. Whereas these older gods, these that have been suppressed or set aside because of the dominance of the Sun Priests and the Watchers, they're pretty visceral. They're pretty, they're dangerous. They'll use you. They'll,
Yeah.
as powerful as they can be. But our sympathies are, I think, more with them in a sense, even though we're probably more similar to
Hmm.
the Rampa and her folks. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that. But now
Yeah.
that you mention it, I need to think more.
Yeah. I think you might be onto something because
Yeah.
I found myself, oh, yeah, here's the societal leaders that are, all into a bit of the science and trying to lead through enlightenment and that kind of thing. And then as this goes on and you between earth and sky and you have these elevated humans that are vessels and you have gods again very much in play coming down, some of the sun like is as these gods come back around is some of the magic that they, like you say, they kind of forgot about it or moved more into a scientific area. Is that gonna get pulled back the other way as these gods start to make appearances
Well,
or
some of the other Sky Maid clans actually, I was wondering, are we also going to see the Water Strider God or the Golden Eagle God or whatever in this, since we've got the Carrion Crow one.
That has me most excited going forward,
yeah.
actually, is hoping that we do get, because again, for me, the world building was the favorite thing of this story. And that's what I hope going forward as the story develops, that we do get to see more of kind of the breadth of all of these kind of oppressed religions and these religious sects that have been, kind of pushed to the side. So,
Yeah.
I always hate to impose my own hopes and dreams into a book, but that's what I hope is going to happen going forward.
And that tension between the modern and rational on the one hand, and the ancient and the mythological on the other hand, also plays out in our fourth POV character, Okoa, um,
Mm.
who is, he's been away, he's been training among the spear, what are they
Spear
called?
maidens.
Spear
Spear
maidens,
maidens.
yeah, the spear
Mm.
Hmm.
maidens at the military academy.
Hmm.
And he's a little bit out of touch. Seems like a decent chap, though, pretty much. And of course, his mother has been killed. He knows it's murder right away because of the rune or the marking that she sends him, right?
The little cryptic letter he gets. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So he's suspicious when his cousin comes along. Chaya is the cousin's name.
Hmm.
I don't know how much I trust Chaya at this point, but we'll see. We'll see. Uh, but Okoa's got, he's skeptical. He doesn't believe at first, and when he's approached by the supposed zealots among the Crow clan, what are they
Hmm.
called? The Oda Ho or
Oh,
something like that. Do I have that
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Oda Sedone,
Oda something or other.
I think.
Anyway, um, yeah, they're wherever they are. Yeah, I think everyone knows what we're talking about. Yeah, Oda Ha, I think. That's Maka is the leader, I think, that approaches him.
Hmm.
But he's got a lot of skepticism initially. It's like, no, you guys, I'm sorry, this is just, you need to bury all this. And he's trying to be practical and everything. And also as a leader figure of his clan. He's trying to keep them alive, and he
Hmm.
sees them as being a dangerous threat to the survival of his clan. But at the end, when his own giant crow, very cool, by the way. I'm glad we have
Yes.
giant
Mhm.
crows in here, and we got to see a water strider and stuff. Um, his own crow sort of he gets a little jealous because his own crow basically takes the side of this outsider who comes out of nowhere to become the crow god. So
Yeah.
thoughts on Okoa, guys? Josh, you want to start us off with Okoa?
He's one I wanted more of because we
Uh,
didn't get him until about halfway through, and
Yeah.
then we got just kind of glimpses from him. I think page count, his POV was definitely the lowest, and but I liked him, and I felt that especially his role at the end, perhaps he's going to be more important going forward. Maybe he's one of those that's she didn't need to introduce him right away, but he's going to prove important, in the scheme of the big series. But no, and I like the scene where, it seemed like the assassination attempt on Naranpa, like he was embroiled in that as well. And but he was able to, I guess, kind of cut through all of the BS around him and understand what was going on, despite everybody else kind of buying into all the ways that it seems like that his clan was being manipulated. And it seemed like he was able to see through that really well. So, I mean, he seems like a pretty competent character. And I just wanted more of him. Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of my repeating record here is I wanted more of this and more of that and more of this and more of that.
Not the worst thing if you want more from.
True,
Yeah.
true.
I mean, if
But no,
that's
I,
your
I liked him. I thought he was an interesting character. And we didn't have, a male point of view character that was kind of like the strong warrior type. And I
Mhm.
think it added a dynamic that hadn't been there until we met him.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. John, any thoughts on Okoa?
I like Akoa quite a bit because he for me represent like Serapio, Narampa. I keep blanking on our sailor's name.
Oh, Ciala.
Tiala.
Ciala. These are all elevated, touched. What made this world turn its back on this magic? Why are these individuals touched? Akoa is our kind of everyman in a way.
Yeah.
Like he can look around and go, okay, wow, people are really whipped up here. Like what? Maybe we should all slow down and take a breath, guys. Like and I really like that, and I really like. But I agree with Josh. When I was reading it, I kind of felt like, oh, this is a lot like Pharaoh in the Blade itself. Like she's just getting flashes here every once in a while. Maybe she's important down the road, but why are we getting her right now? And I felt that way
Yeah.
about it, Akoa, even though I was quite attached to him. But the other thing I really liked about when I got to his sections and I was spending time with him, like you were saying, Dr. Chase, his cousin Chaya would show up. And I wasn't sure if I trusted Chaya either,
Uh-huh.
but he immediately wanted to step down. And now that my matriarch to guard and it's your sister who is matriarch, you must step up. And I was like, okay, well, I really like that every character here, there's no mustache twirling, no matter what their
Right.
motivations are, their designs are, they truly are doing what they think is best. Their motivations are really pure, whether it's a mother who's whatever she's been through oppression wise, love for her son, carves him up at the beginning. It's done of love. I mean, there's very I could almost understand motivations for everyone, no matter how dark it got. And I thought that was very present for me when Chaya came. And it's like, I didn't trust him either. But at the same time, it's like, he's trying to do the best thing. I just don't know if what he thinks the best thing is the best thing, you know? And
Hmm.
I really appreciated that aspect of basically all the characters. But I really specifically like the show because I felt like, oh, here's a well-intentioned, good man who's going to be thrown in the deep end, and he is really going to be our point of view of everything that's really about to get whipped up and way out of control.
And we pretty much see that happen at the end of the book when
Yeah.
he witnesses the aftermath of Serapios or the Crow God's slaughter of the Watchers, the temple priests and whatnot, except for Narampa, who was fortunately for her, usurped and cast aside. So she wasn't there for that. But yeah, we haven't talked about, before we talk about that final scene, I don't know if there's any other characters you want to bring in, because there was Kahlo and the sailors on the boat who got,
Who didn't make
they
it?
became bird food.
But yeah, all those are all
All those are
marked out.
X.
All those are marked out.
Balaam, the merchant guy, who's okay, so we know what the motives were clearly for Saya. We know even what the motives were for the three tutors.
Mm-hmm.
They all
Mm-hmm.
had motives for getting at the Sun Priest. Balaam, on the other hand, is a bit of you see a Machiavellian character there in the background. He's some bored
I wonder, yeah, I
guy.
wonder if he's going to be back because I mean he kind of got the ball rolling, but he's wasn't hugely present.
Well, he's a
Well, that
member of the city of Quecola, so you got to think maybe he has vested interest in weakening Tova. So
maybe.
maybe there's some machinations there.
But I think as you're mentioning the little scripts before the chapters, and we had some from Saya, and we had some from all the rebels basically, and I think we had one or two from Balam
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they had been working and planning this for quite some time.
yeah.
So he has been very important to this new uprising.
He has magical abilities too. That's clear. We know that from Ciala's interactions with him.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to him than meets the eye for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be back, hopefully.
I hope so. Yeah, he seems like he ought to be. Uh, uh, all right. Well, how about that ending, guys?
I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved the ending. I loved it.
I
I
loved it,
thought
but it was rushed.
okay. It was quick. It all happened very quick. But
Quite a whirlwind.
it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
exactly what was promised, you know? And the way it left each of our four POV characters, one cast off a bridge, one throwing everyone off a bridge trying to get to her love, one just completely losing himself to the mission and wrecking shop, and one just watching it in horror. Like every single one of them are left in a completely different state, in a completely different world, a world that has blacked out the sun. Like it completely changed. Like this, it's all been turned upside down. The rationality, the analytical, scientific leadership of the sun priestesses or priests has been upended. Now we're deep into the carrying crows, and no one got off scot-free. Everyone suffered in some way that they I would imagine will carry forward into the next books.
You know what
I
you
did
just
like the way
described?
she wrote the eclipse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was
I thought
brilliant.
that was fantastic.
You just
Again,
described, John, a convergence, right?
Yes.
Right? That
have
is
you guys
a
had your Malazan chat yet?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Coming up.
convergence. What she described, and I love how she builds that up. Every single chapter begins with 20 days before convergence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as you said, Josh, she really does a great job describing that solar eclipse. So yeah, good stuff. Josh, you did like the ending overall then?
I did. I thought it happened too fast. And it was just like boom, boom, boom. So many things happened within such a short span of time. I think just a little bit more time to let it breathe so that there would have been more weight to it for me. I think it would have hit even harder. And I was chatting with just DMing with someone on the Discord, and they were like, "Yeah, I read that 2 years ago. I can't tell you anything about that book."
Oh,
Like because it just had left their memory in the time that they'd read it, and I was like, I could totally see that because it was, so many things happened so quickly at the end of it. And then I, pointed out about the eclipse and the crow, and everybody's dead, and it wasn't Naranpa, and that was
Yeah.
the big surprise and everything, and then like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I remember a little bit of that now. So I do wonder, for me as well. I mean, I struggle as I get away from books. Like, how memorable is this going to be for me? Because it did seem to be just such a quick kind of rushed ending for me.
I will definitely remember that bathhouse scene, and I think I'll remember that ending too, for sure.
Yeah.
But there, it does happen in a rush, and I think again, as I was saying in the beginning, it's like you've been reading a Malazan book, Josh. So,
That's
I
true.
mean, if you compare those two, and they're
And
great
I read
reads.
that I read them back to back. I read Toll the Hounds and then
So
Black
there you
Sun.
go. So
Oh.
you went from Toll the Hounds to 100,000 word book, and of course you're going to feel like, wait, shouldn't there be more?
Yeah.
You know. But I
Hey,
think
that's
honestly,
that's actually a really good point. I mean, that may have
Yeah.
affected, some of my
100%,
enjoyment of it.
That
100%.
had to
The
have.
book
That
you
had to have.
read before the book you're reading is always going to have an effect on how you feel about the book you're reading now. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, and again, I think it's just that's what publishers want now is just bam, 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 bam. And like I said, I like the older kind of take your time, less more invest.
Unfortunately, we're getting lesser and lesser of a demographic, though, as attention spans get shorter and the audience demographic shrinks, and what they want is something quick and hit and hard hitting fast. And I worry for our epic tomes.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if a publisher would touch a 300,000 word novel these days.
Not unless you're Brandon Sanderson or someone like,
Yeah, you're established
Somebody
already.
established, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a shame. And I do think this was probably her debut, which meant probably I wouldn't shock me if there was pressure to keep to a certain word count. But I still love the story. I would have loved more too. I would have been totally down for a longer version of this, but this is what it is, and I think it does a lot with those 110,000 words. So I was happy and hoping for more in the next two books. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Yeah,
Josh?
I mean, I would say the same. The thing that has me most excited going forward is the world, because I did love that aspect of it, and I mentioned I like the writing as well. So hopefully we'll get even more of that expansion, and then maybe if I'm not reading Toll the Hounds before book two, maybe it'll be it won't seem as rushed to me. But actually, the chat has helped me, get a little bit more excited for it. So I appreciate you guys.
Good, good, good. John, final thoughts?
The chat for me, I'm like Josh. The chats for me makes me realize I'm pretty high on this one. I really am. From the opening prologue, that brutal prologue where a mother sacrifices herself and creates a vessel for her god out of her own son. All the intrigue we get, the old gods ascending, people being touched by magic that has left this broken world, and the political intrigue of the different arms vying for ascendancy of how they run their culture. This wonderful pre-Columbia Mesoamerican world that I thought was just such a breath of fresh air, and kind of characters that these moments of magic, like when Ciala transformed. I thought that was such a great moment. I'll remember that moment. I'll remember the bathhouse. I'll remember the crow god wrecking shop at the end.
Mm.
Some of these things I will remember Ochoa getting onto his giant crow and flying back to his
Nunda.
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's some epic cool stuff going on here.
Yeah.
And I do love the gods coming back. Why were they left behind? What was the danger that made people feel like, oh, we can maybe move to enlightenment and leave this behind? It's a dangerous thing. Like, what's going on there? Again, I guess like Josh says, the world. There's quite a bit here that I really, really dig. And if it sticks the landing with book 3, which she gives herself as much space I think as she needs to do it, because it's a longer book. I don't know. This could make my list. I'm feeling this could make my list.
Cool. Yeah, we didn't talk a lot about the magic, but I love the concept that magic is essentially when you can imbue an object with the divine power uh,
Yeah.
that's been left in the world, including a human. A person,
Mm-hmm.
a body can be that object as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Like the witch that
yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
she has a little bit of the salt of the where the gods were laid waste, and
to
a little
tie
bit of
up.
that,
Yeah,
yes, a
yeah.
little bit of that salt can bring
We
about
got to get back Narampa. I'm fully
mm-hmm.
expecting her to be revived, although there's probably going to be consequences to her being dead for a bit.
Yeah.
So she wasn't too waterlogged yet, thank goodness. But all right. Well, thank you both. This has been great. I appreciate you letting me crash the party and join you for your read. But we will be getting together again in a month or so. I don't know which channel it'll be, but it'll be either John's channel, Talking Story, or Josh's channel, Red Fury Books. We'll figure that out. But there will be links to both channels. Go check them out. They're wonderful people with great insights, as you can tell. But that is it for us for now. Until next time.